candidates for Kenosha City Council. Our first race is District 2, and with us tonight is Bill Bowman, who's the challenger. John Fox, the incumbent, is not able to be here tonight. Mr. Fox is retired. His education consists of Bradford High School and Gateway Technical College, and his previous elected experience was alderperson for the 2nd District for 2016 to 2018. Mr. Bowman is a candidate, and he's 69 years old, born in New York. He attended college briefly in the late 1960s and has been self-employed for most of the time since then. He moved to Wisconsin in 1977. For the last 38 years, he has been an owner of a Wisconsin-based business. Since 1989, the business has had a location in Kenosha, and in 1999, he himself moved to Kenosha. Since 1999, he's been on the board of directors of Safe Harbor Humane Society and currently the president. Mr. Bowman, your opening statement for 60 seconds, please.
First, I want to thank WGTD for this opportunity. As mentioned, I've had a business in Kenosha since 1989, and I've lived in the 2nd District since 1999. During these years, I've seen the city change from one dependent on heavy manufacturing to one that is poised to take advantage of the new economy. As alderperson, my desire is to help the city fulfill this potential. As I've walked through the district distributing my campaign material, I've been struck by the economic diversity of the district, from historic mansions on 3rd Avenue to Harbor Park to rundown rentals in the Frank School area. Each neighborhood has its own unique issues, yet each of these issues affects the whole district. The job of an alderperson is to listen to the residents and help them resolve these problems. Communication is the key. As a business owner for over 40 years, I know that prompt attention to problems is the best way to handle them. Ignoring them does not make them go away. My campaign slogan is, I will listen to you. As alderperson, that is what I will do.
Thank you. Mr. Bowman, you mentioned that your district has a lot of economic potential. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about what you see for economic development or things that will benefit your district economically?
Well, in the district, the hub of the economic area is obviously downtown. And one of the issues that I think would really help downtown is a little more population density. And this can be achieved by putting in some multi-family, multi-story market rate housing. Some of the units that have gone in recently, some more subsidized, but there's also buildings that have gone in at a fully market rate and are virtually filled. And so this is a good place for young professionals to live. This would then, by increasing the population density, would help the downtown businesses. But the areas around downtown need to be improved. I was really struck as I walked through parts of the area around in the Frank School neighborhood and spoke to the residents that there's an awful lot of problems with absentee landlords, and people find themselves trapped. I know of one person that I know personally that's living in a rental unit that has black mold. And they approached me, and I read through the city ordinances, and that's not something the city handles. If it was electrical or plumbing, the city can get involved, but mold, they can't. So these people feel trapped because they can't move somewhere else.
So you see some legislative remedies for this?
I think the remedies are on the books already. They just need to be enforced. I think that it's a matter of people are afraid.
They're afraid that they're going to get evicted. They're afraid that that they're not going to find another place to live. And so they need to have the support to know that if they complain about problems, that's their right to complain about problems. They're paying rent. And the person who's renting the building to them is, in effect, a business. And a business should take care of their business.
You mentioned the diversity of your district. What particular problems do you think the diversity presents to you as an alderperson, and how would you address the diversity of your district?
I think that the problem sometimes for people is that they've never dealt with the different diversity. Now, I had a business, my business is in the process of winding down now, but in the late 1980s, I had 60 employees working for me in a factory up in Oshkosh. Every day a bus came from the prison with 8 guys on it. So I have a lot of personal experience in working with people from lower socioeconomic areas but I also have a lot of experience in working with people who have an awful lot of money. And that helps me. I understand their problems to a certain extent because I understand where they're coming from. I grew up lower middle class. My father was in the fire patrol in New York, worked other jobs just to keep in the classic 1950s, mom isn't going to work, but I got to work 2 jobs so we can have the house. I've lived through all of this. I can relate to people. I've been in sales my whole life, so I know how to listen to people.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Okay.
We're going to turn now to the next race, which is District 3. And we have with us both candidates, the incumbent, Jan Mikulski. Jan has furnished me some information. He is the 3rd District incumbent. He's a retired machine tool technician from Chrysler. He has a BE in history from UW-Madison. He has an MBA from UW-Parkside. That's a Master of Business Administration. He's had an apprenticeship with Wisconsin State Machine Tool and Gateway Technical College. He's lived in Kenosha for over 60 years, 60. He has served on the Public Safety and Welfare Committee, the Parks Commission, the City Plan Commission. He's chaired the Historical Preservation Commission. He's been on the Museum Board, the RKCAA Board of Directors. In the past, he's been the chair of the Water Commission and a member of Public Works and Stormwater. His challenger is Kyle Flood. His occupation is a restaurant server. His education is Tremper High School, University of Wisconsin Parkside, and he's currently a Gateway Technical College student. And he previously has served on the Kenosha Unified School District School Board. He's had a 3-year term from 2013 to 2016. Incumbent Jan Mikulski, your opening statement, please, sir.
Yes, hello. With all respect to the gentleman from the 2nd District, I insist the 3rd District is the most diverse in this city. It goes all the way from the lake all the way to 37th Avenue. It involves Allendale, but it also involves the area around the railroad tracks by Bain Park. It involves the area around the uptown Grass Village area, and then the area between 30th Avenue and 37th. And each of these neighborhoods are very distinct from the others. And consequently, sometimes you can't equate the district as a whole with an individual neighborhood. Probably most of my effort and energy has been taken up by going into the area around the uptown area. There have been many improvements. If I can't get it done, it can't be done. I don't have a magic wand, but things are better. Better may not be good enough, but still, things have improved.
Thank you. Mr. Flood, your opening remarks, please.
Sure. First, I just want to thank everyone who's involved in putting this together, and thank you, Len, for hosting, or for moderating. My name's Kyle Flood. I was a former member of the Kenosha Unified School Board. I did not seek re-election. I lost an election for this office once before, and I'm making another go at it for several reasons. One, I think that leadership has failed our district for a really long time. I have lived through all 3 different parts of the district that my opponent just mentioned. I've lived in Allendale, I've lived in Uptown, and I live on the more western end of the district now. I've seen the problems right there. I believe I'm running to address 4 main issues, I guess. And those are, we need to bring more opportunity to the Uptown area. The Uptown area has been struggling for far too long. Poverty and homelessness and drug addiction are all over. We need to prioritize the residential roads over the big road projects. We need to have safer streets by addressing how we police, and we need to restore our trust in our local government.
Thank you. Gentlemen, let me begin by asking Mr. Flood, what's the most important 1 or maybe 2 things that you would like to see solved in your district?
Sure.
Either by legislation or enforcement or what have you.
Sure. Directly in the district, the business environment of the Uptown area is the #1 thing. I would like to see us tackle the problem with the food desert that's been created with the closure of Pick and Save. I wish more had been done to prevent that closure, but it's too late for that. So I do think we need to get a supermarket in. Other than that, I think the main problem in my district is just the level of poverty and the level of crime, especially nonviolent crime, surrounding the opioid epidemic. And to do that, I think we have a lot of county board members, a lot of city council members, school board members, everyone who would love to address that issue. I've heard plenty talk about it during their campaign. Along with nonprofits, the city should be working with them more to address those issues and provide treatment resources.
Mr. Mikowski, what do you see as the important issues that you would work on in your next term?
Well, I'd like to address some of the comments that my opponent here has made. Number one, when it comes to the Uptown Brass Village, I have been working with them to improve the situation. Most people who go to the Uptown say things are better. We have created an Uptown Business Association in prelude to creating a bid. This is something that I don't consider myself the person to tell them what to do. You sit there and you say, well, you need leadership. They don't, these are people who know their own business, they know their own investment, this is their livelihood. They don't need to be told what to do. I am their servant. When they ask me for help, I'm there, I meet with them every month, and I work with them also on other issues. As far as the closing the pick and save, I had a conversation with Kyle here a few weeks ago, and I enumerated all the things that I have done. And surprisingly, he told me, that's exactly what I would have done. Gee, we're not so different after all. And that you have said. So, you know, really, I have done, there are some things that you cannot wave a magic wand. There are some things I'd like to be able to compel people to do things, but some things you just can't change that easily. You know, no magic wand. I've been working at it, and I know how to get things done if they can be done.
Well, Mr. Flood, what would you do differently from Mr. Mikowski? How would your term be different and be an improvement for the citizens of your district?
Sure. Speaking just towards pick and save or towards all issues? Sure.
Do you name it?
Sure. First of all, with the pick and save issue, a major contributor to the reason that store closed was the theft. We should have done more about policing in the area. We need more officers. Right now, I don't know who's aware, but we have less than 20 officers on the streets during any shift, any given shift. That is not enough for a city of over 100,000. And it's no wonder that the response times couldn't be fast enough to address the theft at that store. On top of that, other than that, can you just repeat the question one more time?
How would your
How
administration
would
be different
How would
as
be
alderperson?
different? My opponent has done a few things in the past few years that I really just cannot agree with. He pushed heavily for the closure of First Step services, leaving a giant hole in resources for the homeless. I would not have done that if the services did need to close. Then I would have proposed some kind of alternative, worked towards some kind of alternative. A lot of the road funding has been focused on some of the main roads, especially in the current alderman's own neighborhood. I don't think that's appropriate. I think we need to spread that out to residential roads throughout the district. I've been keeping notes on which roads, as I knock the doors, really need the most work. And on top of that, I think what would be most different is that right now, people can't trust government, whether it's local, state, national, whatever it is. And
Okay.
Mr. Mikowski's excuses aren't going to cut it.
Let
Actually
me
do.
move on then.
Sure.
Mr. Mikowski, I wonder if you could tell us, what do you see as the most critical problem facing your district in the future that needs to be addressed before it becomes a problem?
Oh, absolutely. Some of the issues that are unfortunately beyond the city's purview in many respects, a lot of crime, the opioid crisis, but the city and the county do work together on crime. I've gotten a lot of drug houses shut down. I've got a lot of blighted properties condemned and raised. And I would like to address something that Mr. Flood said about the First Step. You know, every alderman every elected official has got to make a choice. And I think the people who vote for them have to understand what the choice is. Is it the duty of the elected official to defy the will of his constituents or his or her constituents, or to basically reflect what the constituents want? Because when it came to advocating for the closure of First Step, it wasn't even close. I mean, it wasn't even close.
Okay, just a final question. What's the impact going to be of the increasing density of housing in your area of the community, Mr. Flood? Are you concerned about it, or do you see it as a good thing?
Right now, I see it as a good thing. We need more housing. We have a lot of people coming in here. I see that generally as a good thing so far, but we need to be careful. We need to be fiscally responsible as we move forward.
Mr. Mikowski, what do you feel about the housing?
I think in my district, the goal should not be necessarily higher density, but lower density and more owner-occupied housing. There have been some statistics that once the owner occupied, might exceed 50%, the crime rate goes down precipitously, and that's what I'm in favor of.
Thank you both very much. Appreciate you being with us today. And now we're going to turn to the next race. Turn the page here and find District 4 for the City Council. And with us is Holly Kangas. She is, in essence, running unopposed. And so we're going to ask Holly to tell us maybe why it's important to vote for her, even though she's running unopposed. And we'll give you time to do that, Holly. Holly's occupation is as a residential escrow manager and sales and marketing manager for Landmark Title of Kenosha, which is a division of Chicago Title. She's a graduate of Bradford High School, and she does not have previous elected experience. Holly, why don't you give us your opening minute statement, please?
Sure, I'd be happy to. My name is Holly Kangas, as Len said, and I'm running for alderperson in District 4. I'm a lifelong North Sider who married my high school sweetheart, Russ Kangas, almost 43 years ago. I have worked at Landmark Title for the last 26 years in many different capacities, but most recently, as you said, as the residential escrow manager. I decided to run because after making inquiries within the district, I found many people felt as I did, that we needed a change. And I felt strongly that even though I'm not a politician, I'm the person to make that change. I care deeply about my city, and I have a passion to serve. In addition, I feel my experience as a manager and a problem solver will help me serve the district and the city well.
Thank you. Let me ask then, what are the big issues in your district, in District 4, that you want to address and that people have told you need to address? What's going on in your district that's important enough to make you want to run?
Well, it wasn't so much the issues, it was the need for change in our district, but that has since corrected itself. So what I would say the issues in my district are currently we have some terrible road issues that will need to be addressed. I know the mayor going forward this summer, there's going to be the lead abatement going down 22nd Avenue. But in my district, you know, I'm fortunate that I live in an area that, as the other alderman mentioned, I also live in a diversified area where we have single-family homes and we have a lot of apartment complexes, different ones. And so I think there's certain problems that go along with residential and apartment living. And, you know, I'm going to learn as I go and address everything as it comes up.
As you've spoken with people going to door to door in your district, what's your vision for what you'd like to see change in your district and how you would like to represent your district? How will that be different?
Well, I feel that at this stage in my life, I'm 62 years old, and I'm proud to say that. I have more time to give to the city and to the constituents, and I feel that, again, my ability to work with all different types of people and class of people, I'm enabled to be able to relate and to understand, and I have the time to serve, and I'm pretty sure I'll be good at it.
I want to refer to the fact, again, that of the strange circumstance that G. John Ruffalo's name is on the ballot.
It is.
But he cannot serve if he
cannot.
were to win this election, and in that case, a special election would have to be called. Is that right?
That is
so,
correct.
I suppose you're telling people to vote for you?
I am absolutely telling people to please go out and vote for me. I could actually lose by getting the least amount of votes between the two of us, and I so badly don't want that to happen. I've done my due diligence. I've knocked on 900 doors. I've talked to people. I've listened to people. I've met with the mayor. I've met with county officials. I've tried to really prepare myself for this because from the get-go, I felt like I was going to win this election. So it's a little disappointing that it's come down to the way it is, but you know, I want to garner the most votes, and I would ask people, if you have voted already and you haven't voted for me, you have till 5 o'clock tomorrow to go to the municipal building and change your vote.
Thank you so much, Ms. Kangas.
Thank you.
All right. We're going to move on now to the next race, which is District 7 for the City of Kenosha. And we have with us the incumbent, Patrick Juliana, who's president of Patrick Automotive, Inc. And we have Gregory Bennett Jr., who is challenging him. And as I understand it, you're a write-in candidate, is that right?
Correct.
Mr. Bennett? Mr. Bennett tells me that he was born in November '79 at St. Catherine's Hospital and was down on Sheridan Road, graduated from Luther High School, and then left to attend college in New York. He joined the United States Army. After the military, he opened a record label and signed a recording contract. As an artist, Gregory enjoys playing, writing, as well as singing. He held several events in Columbus and Lincoln Park in the past, and as a result, Mr. Bennett was called upon by the mayor to sit on his committee to bring about more change in Kenosha parks. He sits on more boards and committees since then, and he works with the KUC. He also works with the Coalition for Dismantling Racism, and he's on the Kindness Committee. His professional background, other than the military, is mainly in project support WIFSET. He's also run HR departments as well as working in human services. So we're going to begin with an opening statement, please, from the incumbent, Mr. Juliana.
I want to thank WGTD, Tony, for your time and Kenosha Access. And been an alderman since 2008. Been very, very dedicated to the district that I live in because I was born in that district. And working on repurposing some of the vacant buildings down there. We're in the process of removing the old Bain School that was built in 1906. We're going to have a state-of-the-art fire station put up there. The former Vincent McCall building on 56th and 22nd is going to become a affordable market rate apartments. I'm very excited about that, and I'm very excited about the Chrysler property that we've been working on, and hopefully it's going to be a benefit for the city overall.
Thank you. Your opening statement, please, Mr. Bennett.
I basically just want to thank God, my mama, and y'all, plus the city for even having me here, because it's like the second time I've been invited to anything. But my whole basic thing is we all die. The goal is not to live forever, but to create something that will. And it's time now that a younger generation takes its place and actually takes self-accountability and bring our city to a better place that it's supposed to be.
Anything else?
No.
All right. Let's quickly move on to some questions then. Mr. Bennett, tell us what you think you would address, what issues you think are important with respect to District 7, and what kind of issues you'd like to address, and what improvements you'd like to see made in your area of the community.
It basically boils down to an old saying, doing something the same, expecting a different result. We've been doing it the same this whole time. The city's always been doing it the same. I want to tell it's time that we actually put the people and make them accountable as well. I come from a military background, but at the same time, I come from the same background that most of these people in impoverished neighborhoods come from. So what I would actually propose is giving them the chance, and the landlords a chance, to work together and have actual programs so they work and live united.
Mr. Juliana, the same question for you. What would you address in your next term with respect to improving the district?
Well, I first ran in 1980. I was there for 2 terms. And I ran because of the conditions of the housing within the district. At that time there, we were 51% owner occupied. But I could see the deterioration happening back then. I ran for office in 2008, and I pretty much ran on the same issue, along with crime and blight. Now today we're at 72% unowner occupied properties. And we've been working diligently with the departments within the city to address them issues. I'm working, and I'm going to continue working to hold quite a few of the absentee landlords accountable for the conditions of their property. We have a great group of landlords, the Kenosha Landlords Association. I've met with them on a few occasions. Very, very good, very, very dedicated, and are an asset to the city. But we have landlords that are outside of the association that don't even live in the city, don't live, in a lot of cases, don't even live in the state. All right, it's a cash cow for them. They put a minimal investment back, okay, and they take advantage of tenants that don't have an alternative to move.
Thank you. Now, I'd like to turn to the issues of redevelopment. You mentioned, Mr. Juliana mentioned Bain School coming down and the fire station going in. Mr. Bennett, I'd like to hear your views about the changes in your neighborhood. It's going to be a lot of transition in the neighborhood and in the surrounding areas too. What do you think you need to be looking out for in the future? What are you going to take care of?
With Bain, it's already done. There's no reason to cry for spilled milk to me. Plus the fire people they do deserve a new place. You know what I mean? I think that's good. I think that we could have used it for something else. I think we could have used it for a homeless shelter. I think we could have used it for community centers. I think it could have been used for way more things. But if you want to spend more money, you know what I mean, then that's cool. But at the same time, I like the fact that there is going to be an apartment complex over by the old flea market. I like the way that they're actually renovating that. I like that. Like, that's not something I can't cast on for something I like. But when it comes to everything else, as far as the landlords, the rebuilding of Columbus Park that should have been done a long time ago instead of planting grass on there, we're the only district where you have a park but it's only grass. How do kids call a park if it only just has grass? There's no basketball court. You turn down the best baseball fields we had just to put it all the way on 45th to people that have to catch a bus 3 times just to go somewhere where their kids can enjoy a park. But as far as me, what I'm actually going to do first is going to start with area beautification. We're going to start with area beautification, which each ward has a certain day, and we're also going to do more actually community fundraising so we can actually build the city like we want to instead of begging the city to do it. We're taking some self-accountability. And after that, that's when we'll go into the businesses and allow more diverse businesses since everybody speaks about diversity. It's Kenosha. Everybody's diverse. So what are you going to do about it? The crime is diverse. Everything is diverse. But what's happening is nobody's working together in diversity to make real change. It's just talking. It's time for action and not acting.
Mr. Juliana, what would you think about the areas in your neighborhood, the problems in your neighborhood, or the good things in your neighborhood that you want to enhance in your next term?
Well, first off, we'll start with the good. The good is we are very, very diligent as a city to address the crime, the blight, and the deterioration. We've had a 12, almost 13% reduction in calls for service as far as police and fire and health go, because we've been staying on top of it. And that's massive when you're talking about a district the size of that I have with a high percentage of rental units. And the other issue, Columbus Park. My opponent stated Columbus Park. We don't have basketball hoops. We took out the baseball diamond. Well, last year we took out the baseball diamond because of the festivals and because of lack of use of the baseball diamond. We had the bleachers there. We had all the electric, all the facilities were there. Minimal use at best. With the basketball hoops, we had them there. In 2008, I was receiving phone calls from parents, and I got a high diversity population. And diversity made this country. People from all ethnic backgrounds made this country. And I'm blessed to have them in my district. They called me. Their kids were becoming mugged. They were stealing their bicycle, stealing their shoes, stealing their money. They were doing drugs. We had signs posted. I had signs posted. The park closed 10 o'clock. They were in there at 10, 11, 12, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, creating problems. So we turned around and we took out the basketball hoops. Last year we took out the ball diamond, and now we're working to make a top park out of it.
Thank you very much. That closes this race for me.
Can I ask a question?
We're going to move on to the next race. Okay?
Okay.
We've done 8 minutes on this one, and we're going to move on now to District 8. And on District 8, we have Mr. Bruce Fox, Junior Bruce, and his opponent is Martin Schoenberg III, who was not able to attend tonight. Mr. Fox's biography, which he sent, tells us that he's lived in the district for 43 years and was alderman from 1982 to 86. also 1990 to 94, and from August 2017 to the present. He was a member of the Finance Committee, Public Works Committee, Board of Water Commission, Stormwater Utility Committee, Airport Commission, License and Permit Committee, the Environmental Control Commission, and the Transit Commission. Mr. Fox also worked at American Motors Chrysler for 13 years, then retired from Kenosha Unified School District after 25 years as a special ed teacher, earning a Distinguished Service Award in 1999. He has a bachelor's degree in physical ed from UW-Madison and a master's degree in physical education from UW-La Crosse and a special education certification from UW-Whitewater. Mr. Fox, welcome, and let's have your opening statement, please.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I took over for Kevin Mathewson in August. He moved to Summers, so his seat became vacant, and the council decided, or voted me in, and I'm thankful for that. I was alderman for 2 different terms, 82 through 86, 90 through 94, and things have sure changed. American Motors is no longer here, McWhite. Many of the bigger factories would move to smaller factories. 08 and 09, a lot of people lost their jobs in the district, ended up losing their houses. They ended up, moving out of the district, out of the city.
Thank you. Let's continue. Tell us, as you've gone door to door and met people in your district and been alderperson again, what's your feeling for what are the issues that need to be addressed in your district? How would you spend your next term?
Well, it kind of makes me wonder why people don't call their aldermen and complain more. When you go around and you knock on the doors, that's when you hear about the person next door who has trash in their backyard, there's old cars, their garages need painting, this house or that house may be a drug house or may not be, but they let you know. But, they should call their aldermen a little more for complaints and see if we can help. We can't do everything, but there are certain things we can do in the district.
What's your outlook for the district in your next term? What, in terms of economic activity, roads, what do you see as the strong points in your district? And what are the weak points that you would like to see addressed? With money or maybe some elbow grease, perhaps?
Well, as far as the roads go, I hope next year and the following year we can put more money into the side roads. We're going to work on the big roads, 22nd, 60th Street, but what the people complain most about are the potholes in front of their houses. And I would like to go around and just, on my own, address some of the properties that are not kept up. To finish my opening statement, many of the houses that came up for foreclosure to the banks sold for very little money to absentee landlords. So in some areas, from people owning their houses, now there's a lot more of the absentee landlords that took over. I don't consider them bad, and a lot of them live in the city, but there are some houses that are privately owned and some houses that are owned by landlords that need some work.
So you're looking at code enforcement and being more rigorous with that?
Yes.
We need new legislation?
No, there's enough on the books,
So you're talking about enforcement,
just enforcement.
aggressive enforcement in your area?
Yes,
Thank you very much. Appreciate your being here tonight.
thank you.
I'm going to turn now to the next race, which is District 11. And the incumbent there is Scott Gordon, who will not be with us tonight. His challenger is Stephanie Kemp. Mr. Gordon, the incumbent, is a sales manager at Ron's Lighting. He's educated at Central High School in Bridgeport, Connecticut, and his previous elected experience as alderman in 2012 and present. Ms. Kemp, her occupation is a senior eligibility analyst at Optum. She was educated at Kendall College and has an AAS from the School of Culinary Art there. She has not served the elected office in the past. She's on our Wisconsin Revolution Board, representing Wisconsin's 1st Congressional District. She tells us that her decade-long full-time career has been a senior eligibility analyst. She's a mom and the sole supporter of 2 active teenagers. Could we have then your opening statement, please?
Yes, thanks so much for having me here. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. Kemp.
So I decided to run. I had heard that my alderperson was not going to seek re-election, and he actively said, you know, anybody who would like to run should come out and run for the seat. So there is a distinct lack of representation for a lot of our population on the city council. So I feel like there's an opportunity. There are a lot of voices that currently are not being heard, and I'm going to focus on revitalizing and expanding neighborhood watch programs, getting street work prioritized and looking at infrastructure projects, working on tax control, and just making sure that I'm representing my district with integrity and being somebody that they feel they can talk to and approach comfortably.
Did I hear you say pest control?
Tax control.
Oh, tax control, okay. Taxes are very
No, we don't have a lot of pest issues.
All right. Well, you did talk about neighborhood watch. Why is that an important issue in your mind?
So we have a really good district overall. Walking the district, I can see some areas that definitely need some improvement. And I think that as an older person, you could be active in your district and be out talking with people and finding out, like Mr. Fox said, the issues that they are concerned with. And people have definitely shared those things with me as I've been out talking with my neighbors. I forgot what you asked me.
Well, just what other issues, let's just move on. What other issues in your neighborhood are important to you that you see are important to represent your people for?
The reason for the neighborhood watch is that I've noticed just in my area, a lot of sort of random cars coming in, sitting late at night, loud music, lights on, and we don't have enough patrols in the area. So if we had neighborhood watch, we'd be connected to each other as neighbors, we'd be working together and looking out for each other.
As you look around your neighborhood and you talk to people in the last few months, what are they worried about? What are you worried about for the future? What would you want to focus on in your term as alderperson?
So really the streets is a major thing. I realize there are budgetary concerns as far as getting our side streets prioritized, but I would be firm on that and persistent to make sure that we're getting updates made where possible. The McKinley area has a lot of concerns. They have a lot of issues with parking around the school, people just parking everywhere because everyone's coming in from out of that district and that area. So trying to work with the school board to get that area focused on and sort of corrected.
You mentioned representation. You didn't feel that everyone in your neighborhood, in your district, in District 11, had an adequate voice and was adequately represented on council. What do you mean by that, Ms. Kemp?
Well, specific conversations that I've had, people have indicated to me that they don't feel comfortable speaking with the current alderperson for various reasons. I don't choose to go into negatives, so really it would just be about me being a person that they feel comfortable talking to, and I'm a collaborator, that's part of my work. What I do every day. So I work with all sorts of people, all different personalities, and I would make sure that they feel comfortable coming to me.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on now to our next race for the City Council. And we have from District 16, the incumbent, Jesse Lewis Downing, and his challenger, Dominic Ruffalo. Excuse me. Mr. Downing, is an account sales manager for DPSG. He was educated in high schools, and he's an alderman on the Kenosha City Council for a total of 15+ years. Mr. Ruffalo, his occupation has been a bailiff, branch 2 of Kenosha County. He's been a substitute teacher at Gateway Technical College. He's had some college education, and he previously was a founding board member and had a 6-year term as union steward for PLEHC. Let's begin with our incumbent. I'm going to ask Mr. Downing for his 60-second opening statement. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Iaquinta. As alderman of the 16th district, which is the largest district in the city of Kenosha, we have houses that are anywhere from $80,000 to $800,000 a house. We have apartment complexes. The biggest thing we have going on right now in the 16th district is all the development that's going on out there. Everything from Uline to Children's Hospital, which is being built out there now, the sale of Dairyland, the develop of a couple more warehouses that are going up out there. The 16th district continues to grow. Now is not the time for change. Now is the time to continue doing what we're doing out there and take care of our infrastructure in the 16th district. Thank you.
All right. Let's move on then and ask your challenger, Mr. Ruffalo, for his opening statement, please.
Hi, thanks for having me. My name is Dominic Ruffalo. I'm a lifelong resident of Kenosha, born and raised here, and I'm the son of 2 Italian immigrants. The 16th district, as my opponent said, is huge. I personally knocked on 1,200 doors. I have a lot of input from what the needs of people are. And I think we need better communication with all the areas that the 16th abuts against, Summers, Pleasant Prairie, Bristol, and Paris. And we need better communications with them to see what kind of growth they're going to experience and make sure the infrastructure that we have is proper.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Downing raised the issue already of economic development and all construction going on of various kinds in the district. Mr. Ruffalo, let me start with you. What's the impact of the economic development of residential construction, business construction? What are the issues in your area that you want to watch out for if you were to be serving as alderperson for the next term?
Well, I have new ideas and new vision. The biggest concern I got west of the interstate is not enough police and fire protection. My idea was maybe having a satellite station at our county building on Highway 45. That could cover some of the issues we have with police and fire. The interstate growth is awesome, but how are our secondary roads leading to it? What kind of manufacturing is coming, or what kind of retail are coming is very important to the residents and the tourism. The tourism is huge on the interstate, and is there enough? Do we need a convention center out there?
Mr. Downing, what do you see as the issues with all this growth and change in your district? What would you focus on for the benefit of your citizens in your next term?
The issues that we're focusing on now is we have our intergovernment agreement with all the surrounding communities. We need police and fire west of the interstate, which is also being addressed with the superstation that's being built on 22nd Avenue. The Station 7 will be dedicated to west of Green Bay Road. That's part of that. The roads are also being addressed. 104th Avenue is being done this year. We're applied for T grants for that, so that it doesn't come out of Kenosha taxpayers, it comes out of the federal government.
With all the economic development and road building, isn't that going to also create a lot of problems for the people who live in your area? How can we mitigate the effects of so much rapid change in your area, Mr. Ruffalo?
We need better controls at our intersections, better timing of our stoplights. Maybe have better uses of our frontage roads with some exits, inlets. Growth is awesome, Kenosha's on the right path so long as there's enough ways to get there. You know, I live off of Highway 50, and it's a mess. Eventually, that's going to get widened by the state. I don't know exactly when, but it's right now there's more people than we have roads.
Mr. Downing, how do you see it with all of this change happening in your District 16? What's the story? How are we going to manage that change and mitigate the possible deleterious effects of so much rapid change?
There is a plan, in fact, for transportation. In 2020, Highway 50 is supposed to be done. They're supposed to be constructed. 158 is also being reconstructed to 4 lanes from the interstate all the way up to Green Bay Road. 142, which is the northern boundary, is also being 4-lane from the interstate, where it already goes up to just past Amazon, just east of Amazon, all the way to south of Walmart. Roads are being done. Stoplights are being put in.
As another question into the change in your district, I wonder, gentlemen, if you could tell us what would you envision as what you would like that district to be like in 3 to 5 years? How would you like to see it made better and more accommodating for the people who live there? What would you do to make it better in the future, Mr. Ruffalo?
I know it's going to seem funny. I'd like to see some kind of Olympic training center here, like a curling center. I think a curling center would be a fine asset to the city of Kenosha, and we could either put it, show some interest on someplace on the interstate, or the old AMC property would be excellent for us. Kenosha is at the cusp of becoming, it's a great city now, but it's really going to blossom within the next 5 years.
Mr. Downing, what's your vision for what you'd like to see that district become?
I would like to see it continue growing the way it is, with industrial and manufacturing along the interstate, with apartment and single-family homes east of the interstate, which is, there's a lot of land available. Instead of developing it there and putting manufacturing there, put single-family homes there, put apartment complexes there. And then along with the manufacturing and warehousing that's going on by the interstate, we have to figure out as a city on how to get our city people out to those jobs. There are a lot of people that don't have transportation. We got to figure out a way to get them to those places. If you have companies that are opening here, you got to get the employees there. There are people here in Kenosha that want to work but don't have transportation.
Do you agree with that, Mr. Ruffalo?
Yes. Everybody that I talked to a lot of people, their biggest concern is not enough communication.
Sounds like both of you are very much interested in seeing that there's good interoperative agreements between the various bodies, municipalities and villages and townships. Is that right?
Absolutely, and with their aldermen.
Mr. Downing?
Yes, and we have a boundary agreements and agreements. We work with them anytime a development comes in. We know what's going on in Summers, and Summers knows what's going on by us. Paris knows what's going on, and we know what's going on in Paris.
Sounds like you're satisfied with the current state of it.
Yes.
Thank you both very much. Appreciate you being here tonight.
Thank you.
And that concludes the city council portion of our evening.
Good evening, I'm Len Iaquinta, and this is the Kenosha Spring Election Candidates Forum for the contested offices of supervisors for the Kenosha County Board. I'm going to review the rules. Candidates will be asked questions by me. The questions are of my own choosing and were not shared with anyone in advance. Thanks to all of you who submitted questions for consideration, including some of the candidates. The order of the races is simply by district numerical no order. The order of the 60-second opening statements for each contested district is incumbent first, or alphabetical by last name if no incumbent. Thereafter, candidates will alternate in response to my questions. Each race is allotted 8 minutes after I introduce the candidates. We do have an audience here at Gateway Technical College in the Academic Building in the atrium on 30th Avenue. The audience has been asked to keep silence to save time and in the interest of fairness to all. The forum is co-sponsored by Kenosha Community Media and by WGTD, Public Radio for Southeastern Wisconsin. Both organizations are providing recordings of this event on their digital pages. See their websites for details. And we are streaming in real time on WGTD Facebook Live. Good evening, gentlemen. We're going to begin with District 3 of the County Board contested races, Jeffrey Gentz. He's given me some biographical information. Mr. Gentz says he has been born and raised here in Kenosha and has lived here his whole life. He has served 5 terms on the Kenosha County Board, having sat on the Finance Committee during all of them, chairing the Kenosha Joint Services Board and the County Board itself. During the 90s, he was also a 3-term alderperson. Welcome, Mr. Gentz, and why don't we hear from you your opening statement, please.
Thank you, Len. I just want to thank you and everybody putting this on. I do appreciate the opportunity to get out and talk. I wish that more of the candidates would come, but that can't be helped, I guess. So, again, my name is Jeff Gentz. I am the current County Board Supervisor for District 3. And what you didn't say, and I kind of want to talk about, are jobs, taxes, and some of the other issues like mental illness and opioids and such. So I look forward to questions on that. But I just want to thank my district for having faith in me and partnering with me for these last few terms, and my family and friends for the support. So thank you very much, Len, and that concludes my...
Thank you. I neglected to reference your challenger, who is Scott Page, who's a shipping and receiving clerk. His education is at GED, Gateway Technical
College, and he doesn't have previous electoral experience. Well, let's go into some of the issues that you think are important. As you've been representing your district, District 3, Mr. Gentz, and you've walked the neighborhoods and talked to people, what are people worried about, and what does that make you worried about for the future for your district?
Well, some of the concerns with the district, unfortunately, I am one of a few supervisors that are city county board supervisors. Okay, and it's been mentioned on every city council forum tonight about the roads. And honestly, that was the biggest question I got, was the city roads, and concern. So that's one thing that I hope to work with the city on, and 89th Street is abysmal. Just so anybody who's listening wants to know. But I look at, as I said, bringing high-paying jobs into the area, keeping taxes low and budgeting, and also working on plans to have preventative issues in place for mental health and the opioid situation.
Well, let's talk about mental health and opioid situation. Now, there's been a lot of talk. We've got some new resources being devoted to these issues. What do you see as possible with legislation, law enforcement, regulation? What tree are you going to bark up?
I'm going to bark up a lot of trees because I consider that to be a very important issue. I'm looking for some public-private partnerships with the hospitals and some other, the community health center, other things to attack that. But I think prevention is a big key. I mean, last year alone, we had to issue a crisis because there was 4 opioid deaths within a 5-day span. So, I mean, it's something that is not going away. It's becoming more and more prevalent. And I met with our Human Services Director and our Health Director just a couple weeks ago on plans to attack that. And I think prevention and working on those partnerships and getting the word out and finding some solutions and alternatives before the stuff happens is important. I don't have all the answers, but I'm looking forward to finding some of them.
With respect to your District 3, I wonder if you'd share with us what are the strengths of your district that you think can propel you into the future, and how are you going to capitalize on those?
Well, the district is, I've heard some of the city alderman candidates talk about diversity, and I mean, my district is pretty stable. I mean, I've been knocking on the doors for going on 20 years, and some of the same people are there. So it's just a matter of making sure that they're comfortable and staying there, working on our budgeting process, keeping taxes as low as possible. And I think we have been doing that. We are fiscally responsible. As a matter of fact, the last 10 years, if you look at it and you factored in the cost of inflation, we're actually below that in tax increase, so by 12%. So I think that's some of the things that I'd like to address and work towards.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. All right, we're going to turn our attention now to the next district, that'll be District 5, the County Board, and we have with us the next two gentlemen, David Celebre and Terry Feast. We have no incumbent, so we're going to take you alphabetical by last name. Mr. Celebre is an attorney, self-employed, educated at Marquette University Law School with his Juris Doctor in '87. Previously, he was a Kenosha County Board Supervisor in the 5th District. He also points out that he is a lifetime resident of Kenosha County, received a bachelor's degree at UW-Parkside in economics. He's been in employment, a trial lawyer. He's been a Gateway Technical College Foundation board member from 2006 to 14, and a supervisor for District 5 Kenosha County Board 210 to 212. Mr. Feast is an electrician. He earned his education at Gateway Technical College as an EMT. He has not been previously elected. Thank you both for being here. And we're going to begin with the opening statement from Mr. Celebre.
Thank you, Mr. Iaquinta, for inviting us to this forum and to WGTD and Gateway Technical College. I might add that you picked a great forum in the 5th District to hold this, so we're very glad to be here this
No
evening.
extra charge for being in the 5th District.
And as a part of the experience that I have, I look forward to working with the county in conjunction with its Department of Workforce Development, Carthage College, as well as Gateway Technical College and Parkside, to bring livable wage jobs to Kenosha County. I think that we're on the cusp of being able to support this, and we can work closely together to improve the average income of the Kenosha County resident, and we have some great opportunities before us. I would attempt to focus on doing this together with being very sensitive to the needs of constituents and keeping an eye on what appears to be, as you're addressing some special needs of both the elderly as well as with the opioid crisis.
Thank you very much. In your opening statement, Mr. Feast, please.
Thank you, sir. I would like to thank you, Lynn, and Kenosha Media, and WGTD for having this event. And as you said, I was born and raised in Kenosha on a farm in Summers, not far from here. I have 3 awesome daughters. One is getting ready to graduate from St. Norbert's. One is in her first year at University of Wisconsin, Stevens Point. And my youngest is about ready to graduate from St. Joe's. And it's a lot for them that I'm doing this.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Well, let's go right into the issues that Mr. Celebre raised, and that is livable wages. How would you see, as a county board supervisor for District 5, being able to work to improve the wages and salaries of people living in your area? Mr. Feast and then Mr. Celebre. Mr. Feast?
Well, personally, I'm seeing things improving. Being in construction for the last 28 years, I'm seeing a lot more construction coming around here, larger factories, better paying jobs, and we have the workforce to do it. Currently, we're having more apprentices come on with us, which is providing a good wage for them. And with the addition of Foxconn coming to our area and the spin-off businesses with that, I think we'll be looking at some good jobs.
Mr. Celebre, what did you mean by working enough to have livable wage jobs? You're not going to hire them in your law firm, so what did you have in mind?
Well, I believe that working with the County Department of Workforce Development in conjunction with the 3 colleges in Kenosha and with the employers, we will be able to provide a workforce that can be trained to respond to the needs of the community. And as it continues to grow, we will then be able to provide the workforce that is necessary in order to have the sustainable wage living that I think the town is entitled to. And I believe at the same time, we'll be able to maintain a close liaison with the educational facilities and the workforce, and we'll be sensitive to changes as they become necessary.
You also brought up the issue of the elderly, and you weren't looking exactly at me, but it's an issue close to my heart. What did you have in mind? What are you talking about?
Well, I think when it comes to the elderly, it's important to keep in mind that there is a demographic portion of Kenosha County that does receive services. Everything from what's more commonly services received at home through monies that are trickle down, actually, sometimes from Washington, D.C. to Madison to the county, which then the county allocates. And we must, through the Department of Social Services, carefully allocate how the money is going to be spent, where it is going to be spent, and to do so in a way that would both be for the better health of the constituents and Kenosha County, and at the same time be somewhat mindful of rising costs of health care, and if we can deal with this in a more amenable setting at home, that may be a desirable way to allocate the funding.
As you look around the district, District 5, Mr. Feast, and talk to people, what's your sense of the most important thing that you would want to focus your attention on for the benefit of your constituents in your term, if you were elected?
Well, Len, I've been knocking on a lot of doors and meeting a lot of wonderful people. I'm really amazed with the reception I've been getting from these people. And the doors I've been knocking on haven't just been residential. I went to this Shalom Center and knocked on doors there and got a tour, and they told me a lot about their facility. I went to the Care Center and knocked on their door. And some of the people I've been meeting have really expressed a big issue with mental health. And I didn't know this in the past, but apparently when St. Catherine's closed their hospital down by the lakefront, they haven't had a place to drop off mentally ill or people with mental problems. So then they were forced to go to Racine, and if there was a bed there, they would drop the people there for care. And if they didn't have available beds, they went to Milwaukee. And if that's not available, they went to Oshkosh. And I actually saw this firsthand myself as I was driving my daughter to University of Wisconsin, Stevens Point. We were alongside of a Kenosha City police car with 2 police officers in it and someone in the back of it.
Mr. Celebre, what do you see, what are people telling you? What's the issue that you would focus on for the benefit of your constituents?
Well, for the benefit of the constituents, do you mean with respect to mental health care or?
Anything, whatever you think is the most important issue in your district.
Well, particularly within the district, I believe that it is important for us as the population begins to age that we continue with what's in place at the the county clerk's office for taking any property that may be changing hands if there are unpaid taxes. In addition to that, as I stated, working with the constituents so that necessary health care can be provided to them. And I also believe with newcomers as well, we can continue working with funding the workforce development department so that we maintain a low unemployment rate.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. And before I get any older, we're going to move on to the next district, District 8. And we have there Stephen Bostrom, the incumbent, who couldn't be with us tonight. He's a real estate broker for Berkshire Hathaway, educated at DePaul University with a degree in finance, has been an alderman in District 12 for 2010 to 2016. And with us tonight is Zachary Rodriguez. He's a working student, he says. He's working toward his BA in political science with a minor in economics at UW Parkside. And we're going to hear from you now. Zachary, Mr. Rodriguez, give us your opening statement, please, sir.
So running for public office is something that I don't feel anybody should take lightly. This is it's regardless of what office you hold, it's an important decision you make to represent the constituents in your district. Looking at my current supervisor, I saw not just a small hole, but a huge gaping hole for need. Our current supervisor has missed months worth of meetings. When you add it up, 20% of general attendance meetings. And to me, that is a complete and blatant disregard of the seat that he sits in. Everybody in my district, I've knocked on over 1,000 doors. They feel that there's one pressing issue that is the most important issue facing the district, but something that they all agree upon is we need a supervisor that's there to address these issues. And something people are going to say I've reused this talking point time and time again, and I have, but I like to use the analogy that you can't fight a fire without a firefighter. And right now it's not that we have a bad firefighter, it's that we don't know where our firefighter is.
So you want to make sure that you show up at every meeting.
And that's not what I'm saying. People are people, life happens, I get that. If it was a few meetings here or there that you miss, I understand. But when you miss that many meetings, like I said, it's a complete disregard for the position that he holds.
Okay, well, let's suppose you're at the county board and you're attending the meetings. What torch are you going to carry for District 8?
So talking through a lot of people throughout the district, they feel like being in the heart of the city, essentially, they feel that the city is carrying the burden for the rest of the municipalities throughout the county. And you look at examples of Summers, and I've got nothing against the people of Summers, but you look at them, they wanted to become a village. It's something that they pursued. It's something that they've done. And now, according to state statute, they should have their own Summers Police Department. You look at Pleasant Prairie, they've done it. It's something that they need to do. And right now, after talking with our county sheriff, he says, the way he looks at it, Summers is they're relying on the county sheriff's department because it's something that was there in the past. It's something that they see is here now. And as a municipality and as taxpayers, those who live in the city of Kenosha, they don't feel it's fair that we're paying our fair share and we have our own police department and other municipalities are not. And you add that with things like mental health services, the opioid epidemic. We can't address these issues when we aren't being represented fairly.
Well, what would you suggest with respect to the opioid overuse and deaths and near deaths? What would you do?
I, along with others, I think believe that the opioid epidemic goes hand in hand with mental health services throughout the county. With that, we need to make mental health services more accessible to those throughout the county. No one should ever feel ashamed of or feel too embarrassed to go seek out mental health services. First and foremost, we, as a community, need to address that and say, we're here with you. We want to help fight this with you. You're not alone. And don't get me wrong, I have absolutely zero sympathy for those in our community that are providing the opioids. None whatsoever, no remorse, you cannot convince me otherwise. But those who are using and those who are coming to us saying, I need help, that should be our first priority. Let's get them off these opioids. Let's get them to the treatment that they need and say, we want you to be part of society. We're going to help you get there.
What's your vision for the district? District 8 in 3 to 5 years, what would you like to see as being better and changed because of your perseverance?
So, like everybody before me has said, everybody thinks their district is the most diverse. I would say ours is diverse in two main issues. We have a lot of people who own homes, and they have for decades. They grew up in that home. They were, schooled at Greveno, for example, and they're still living in that same home. And then we have others, like myself, where we moved into the home. My mom bought the home. There are younger children now in some of these homes who are attending these schools. And my thing is, I take a lot of pride in our district, and I'd love to see people stay within the district. And an issue with that is I talk to a lot of people, a lot of tenants especially, who are renting mostly duplexes throughout my district, who feel that the property is being ignored by the landlord, and then that comes to an issue where that's more city, more so than county. But I've talked with 2 of the aldermen that have parts of their districts within the 8th district, and I've told them I'd like to meet with you once a month, maybe once every other month, and address this, because there's no reason why the county supervisor should say to anybody, that's a city issue, I'm not going to help you.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate your being here tonight. We're going to move now to District 12. And we have the incumbent, Lee Blau. Thank you for being here. And challenger, Gabe Nudo. Thank you for being here. Our incumbent, Ms. Blau, has provided some biographical information for me. She's a two-term member of the Kenosha County Board, elected in 2014. She's the chairperson of the KCB Judiciary and Law Committee and a member of the Human Services Committee. She's a Kenosha County liaison for the Pringle Nature Center, and she's been on the committee for the Healthy People Kenosha County 2020 Multi-Use Trail, which is really a pretty cool thing. Gabe Nudo is retired. He attended the technical school in Cosenza, where my grandmother grew up. Graduated from the University of Wisconsin School of Real Estate. He's completed his CCIM, his GRI, and his CPM. Besides all those initials, his previous elected experience has been 3 terms as a county board supervisor. Ms. Blau, may we have your opening statement, please?
I'd like to thank everybody here at the WGTD staff for having this forum. My name is Leah Blau. I'm running for re-election for the supervisor position District 12. I've been a registered nurse for almost 30 years and a supervisor, as you said, for 4 years now. I was raised and educated here in Kenosha County and graduated from the schools here, and I went to nursing school at UW-Milwaukee. My nursing background and community activities have made me uniquely qualified for the county board. I care about the well-being of Kenosha County residents and moving Kenosha County forward. During my tenure, I've helped maintain Kenosha County's excellent credit rating while supporting the expansion of the care center to address the increasing demands of mental health services and drug and alcohol treatment. I've supported the county's funding initiative for CABA. I've been instrumental in expanding parks and recreation, and that's it.
Well, thank you. Mr. Nudo, may I have your opening statement, please?
Thank you for having us here tonight, and my name is Gabe Nudo. I've been living in Kenosha for almost 50 years. I came from Italy, and I worked at the Old American Motors many years ago for about 10 years, and I'm a former UAW member. And for the last 35 years before my retirement, I was owner of a small business in real estate and financing. I've been on the county board for 3 different terms, and presently I'm on the board of trustees at Brookside.
Thank you. Well, we dig right in with your impressions of what's the important issue people are worried about in the District 12 and how you would help them. Let me start with Mr. Nudo. As you've talked to people in the district, what are people telling you? What are you interested in focusing on?
Well, most of the people in my district, basically, they're not even aware that there is a county board supervisor. There is no communication at all in the district. The problems they really have there is pretty much with the streets. So what we need to do is have some cooperation with aldermen. In District 12, there are 3 different aldermen that we serve with, so there should be some cooperation. Another thing is keep open communication with the people in the district, and just to let them know what's going on and get them involved in different things.
Ms. Blau, what's your response to that?
Okay, I would like to address the communication part, where I can honestly say that when Mr. Nudo was my supervisor, I did not receive any communication from him as well. I had never heard anything from him, and neither have my constituents that I have talked to. As far as what I'm interested in dealing with, we've been talking about the mental health crisis, and I've supported the expansion of the care center to help with the county's mental health, substance abuse issues. I would like to tackle the problem further by finding mental health professionals, more mental health professional caregivers to come to Kenosha County. We have a very serious shortage in Kenosha County, as well as the entire nation, of mental health professional caregivers. And I'm hoping to maybe speak with the local colleges to offer, possible programs to train people, to fill that need, and work on some incentives that would encourage our millennials perhaps to come to school here, stay in Kenosha County, and work here, after graduation. I think those things are important, especially with coming up BoxCon. We're We're going to have a workforce shortage and a problem there. We need skilled people to come and work at these jobs, and I think that's an important issue.
What will be the economic impact of the increase in population and the new manufacturing and other jobs that are coming into Kenosha County with respect to your area in District 12, Mr. Nudo? There's a lot of change. It's happening fast. What do you see in the horizon? How are you going to respond?
Well, I guess it's a good thing. Anytime good jobs come in, it's something good. We need pretty much to work on that, and with the universities and Gateway, people can learn, and I'm all for good jobs. Foxconn is going to be here. Whether we like it or not, it's going to be here. I think it's a great thing, and it's going to bring about, in the way they say, about 13,000 jobs. So we're going to have to work with them and working with Gateway to train people for jobs and just go from there. Housing is going to be a problem, so we're going to have to work on housing. And being in, I was in real estate in the real estate industry for about 35 years. There is too many red tapes they got to go through, and housing is short, so we got to deal on that.
Well, we're talking a lot about affordable housing these days, or workforce housing. I'm not sure what the difference is between those two. But with your background, what kind of housing does your district need? And how will you try to promote that?
Well, my district, basically, it's pretty well full as far as housing is concerned. But it's going to be changing because with the new jobs, people are going to be moving up, and there's new people coming in the district. And we got to try to keep the taxes low and not to waste any money. Right now, there's quite a bit of waste in government.
Ms. Blau, with all the changes coming in your district, what do you see as the issues, and what about the impact on housing in your district? What is that going to be of concern in the future? Maintaining the quality and improving the quality of housing and affordable housing?
Yes, I definitely think that's going to be an issue, and also maintaining, maintaining our taxes within a reasonable level. I know we had been talking. It's been in the paper about the dark stores tax loophole. There was some failure at the state level to get any legislation passed. I would like to encourage the state legislators to give that a revisit, to close this loophole to prevent shifting this revenue loss to our tax, Kenosha taxpayers. And with Foxconn coming, we definitely need to work with Summers and with Mount Pleasant to expand the housing, and talk further about that.
At the end of your next two-year term, if you're reelected, Ms. Blau, what do you want people to be able to say about you that you've accomplished?
Well, I have been active in different aspects of the Kenosha County, on the Kenosha County Board. I had written at more affecting the state, local, and national level, a Fair Voters Maps resolution, encouraging our state government to make sure that, at the next census, that the voter maps are drawn, to fairly represent our population. That way we can make sure our voters choose our representatives and not the other way around.
Mr. Nudo, at the end of your term, if you're elected, what do you want people to be able to say about you, what you've accomplished? What would you want?
I want to be able for them to say that I kept my word on what I promised them that I was going to do. One is communication, that I worked with our law enforcement to keep a safe place for Kenosha. Tried to reduce the waste that we have in government. As a good example would be trying to collect quite a few $1 million that we have in back taxes, where the properties have been sitting there, nobody paying taxes, and some of the people that should do their work and collect the money haven't done a thing. As a county board supervisor, we should work on that to make them do their job.
Thank you very much. We're going to move on now to our next race, District 18. And we have two candidates there. There is no incumbent. Mary Verzal goes by Katie, and Monica Juhas, if I pronounced your name correctly.
Did. Yes.
I would like to just tell briefly what Mary Verzal's biography was. She's a chemist and patent agent for AbbVie, Inc., Educated at St. Joseph High School, UW Parkside, with a BS in Chemistry, Marquette with an MS in Physical Organic Chemistry, and she's registered to practice with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. She's been Secretary of the Republican Party of Kenosha County from 2015 to the President. And with us is Monica Uhas, and she has given me some biographical information. She's a lifelong resident of Kenosha for 50 years, has served as past president of Prairie Lane PTA, was a Cub Scout and Boy Scout leader, served on Kenosha Unified PTA Council as secretary, was a member of the Pleasant Prairie School Commission, served on the Kenosha Unified School District Committee, and is currently serving our community as treasurer of the Pleasant Prairie Fire and Rescue Association, a member of the Pleasant Prairie Historical Society, and she's also on the board of directors at Southern Lakes Credit Union and is president of the Pleasant Prairie Women's Club. She was a village trustee for 7 years in the village of Pleasant Prairie, the first woman to serve on the village board for more than one term, served on the Community Development Authority, a member of the Park Commission there, and served Southeast Wisconsin on the League of Wisconsin Municipalities in Madison as a member of the board of directors. Welcome to you, Monica. Ms. Uhas, please give us your opening remarks.
Good evening. I'd like to thank the listeners for tuning in, and to thank you to WGN and the Kenosha Community Media for hosting this worthy event. As you stated, I'm Monica Uhas, and I'm running for the 18th District Kenosha County Board Supervisor. I'm a lifelong resident of Kenosha County, and I have extensive experience in local government. I have a proven record of experience, strong leadership skills, and being responsive, and also being responsible with budgeting. I believe in working together over party politics, and I refuse to discount someone's idea just because of their political beliefs. In a nonpartisan office, elected officials have a duty to their constituents to be open-minded about ideas. I believe this as a trustee, and I continue to believe this as today as I run for County Board Supervisor. I consider the opportunity to serve the residents of the 18th District a privilege, and I will do so independently and diligently.
Thank you. Well, let's go a little deeper into some of the things you've talked about. You made a point about your budgeting experience. Tell us why that's important and a little bit about that.
Well, it's important because people need to understand when you're working with hundreds of millions of dollars on a budget, you have to know the difference between equalized value and assessed value and taxes. Currently, my opponent is putting out literature about how I raised the levy 27% while in office during the Great Recession. That wasn't a levy increase. That was equalized value. And any community would be proud to have a 27% equalized value. That's good economic development and growth. You have businesses coming in paying taxes, which help offsets the residential burden to taxpayers. When I was on the village board, taxes on the average rose on the average $3.14 on a median home, or 0.40%. That's not a big increase at all. And that was over 7 years, one of the lowest tax bases in the state of Wisconsin on residential homes. And we did that, and we maintained quality services. Police, fire, garbage, all those services remained intact, and residents expect those services.
You mentioned a bipartisan attitude is how I would characterize it from your opening remarks. What do you mean by that?
A bipartisan attitude is being able to work with Republicans, Democrats, independents, working across the board. You don't discount someone's ideas or suggestions just because of a party. You don't vote no on something just because of a party. When I was in the league in Madison, I worked with Republicans, Democrats, independents. We worked on legislation for the whole state of Wisconsin, not just one particular area. And as a county board supervisor, you have to be open to that. Len, I can tell you, knocking on doors in my district, big difference from 2 years ago. 2 years ago was, what party are you with? This time, what experience do you bring? We don't care about party. We want someone who's going to represent us and do the job and do it diligently and do it fair and honestly.
What's the big issue? One of you lives in Bristol, you live in Pleasant Prairie. Lots of things are happening in that part of the woods. What are you concerned about? What's the big issue for the future? What's going to be the difference that you would bring to the county board?
Well, I can tell you, it's a unique district. Pleasant Prairie and Bristol. Pleasant Prairie is a growing community. We have a lot of economic development going on. We have Haribo coming in. We have Aurora Hospital coming in. With respect to that, it's a lot about infrastructure. sewer, water, roads, maintaining those services at a low cost to the taxpayers. Bristol, I heard over and over knocking on doors, they like their quaint community. Bristol is starting to do their corporate park. They want it done in a way that is still going to enhance and protect their community, but also bring in good, strong economic growth without losing that identity. And that's what I want to work on.
Thank you, Ms. Uhas. Appreciate you being with us so much tonight.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Now we're going to move on to our next county board district. That's number 20. And we have with us the incumbent, John Poole, and his challenger, Amy Wagner. Mr. Poole has provided me with some biographical information, which I'll reference. He's seeking re-election to the county board after serving 2 terms. He's a resident of Paddock Lake. The district also covers northern Salem, he points out. Mr. Poole is a Vietnam veteran, having served in the U.S. Marine Corps and was discharged as a Sergeant E5. He has a degree in accounting from Illinois State University and has worked for national and international companies, as well as not-for-profits, in his 40-plus years of accounting. Amy Wagner is a teacher at the Bristol School. She earned her Bachelor of Arts at Columbia College in Chicago and her Master's in Education at Carthage College. She has no previous elected experience. So I'm going to begin with asking our incumbent, Mr. Poole, for his opening remarks, please.
Thank you, Len. And thank you to WGTD for hosting this debate. I'm John Poole, and I've been the County Board Supervisor for 4 years for District 20. And I've been an advocate for the taxpayer, having worked with constituents on zoning issues, speed issues on the roads, and power line right-of-way issues. I voted in favor of the Salem Business Park, supported Foxconn, and supported CAVA's efforts to bring jobs to Kenosha County. And my opponent's campaign has disparaged my military service during the Vietnam War by saying I never served. That is entirely false, as you mentioned in the opening remarks there. And it just goes to show how far they will go to disparage the military. The treatment that I and other Vietnam veterans received when returning was disgusting. And it appears my opponent's campaign wishes to continue it. Thank you.
All right. Let me move on then and ask Ms. Wagner for her opening remarks, please.
Okay, first of all, I'd like to address the fact that my campaign has in no way ever said word one about Mr. Poole at all, negative or otherwise. My father-in-law is a decorated World War II hero. 4 of my uncles served in the Vietnam War. There is no way that I would make a disparaging comment about anybody who gave service to our country. I have been rooted in this community for 24 years, raised my family here. I am an insightful leader that will give our community the opportunity to have their voices heard. I consider it an honor to hold a public position, and in doing so as County Board Supervisor, will do so being fiscally responsible to ensure that we maintain the services that we have so grown to love. My family has appreciated the bucolic community, and I'd like to see that quality of life maintained.
Thank you. All right, let's dig right into it. Ms. Wagner, you talked about leadership. What kind of leadership are we talking about? What's the issue or problem or service that you would be championing in response to your constituents?
Well, I can only speak to myself because I, quite frankly, do not know Mr. Poole at all. I am a teacher at Bristol for 14 years now, formerly KUSD. I was on the task force to put the neighborhood playground into Montgomery Lake Highlands. I've served on 2 private school boards, and I'm currently a friendly visitor for the Kenosha Area Family and Aging Services. I've also led the way for our junior high to do service learning projects at Bristol School, one of which funded much needed items for the Westosha Senior Center. I am self-driven. I actually had 2 radio programs on WGTD that were award-winning every year they were on the air with 0 budget, and we were able to be self-sustaining. I also lead the way in fine arts in my school through our drama club, which had a 0 budget again, and now we operate $20,000, nearly $20,000 in the black, and provide children with all kinds of experience in the arts.
Thank you. Mr. Poole, tell me about your leadership in the present and what you would be leading us toward in the future.
Well, I think the biggest improvement that Kenosha County would be to reduce its dependence on bonding. When I joined the county board, the total debt was around $100 million, and this year the total will be around $128 million. That's $750 in debt for each man, woman, and child in the county. Now, Washington County would be a good example for us. They will be debt-free in 2 years. We have $128 million in debt, and Washington County has $8 million. And I'm striving to be more like Washington County, and that's what I would be striving for.
Ms. Wagner, you said that you would be fiscally responsible. Are you in disagreement with Mr. Poole, or?
I think fiscal responsibility is a big thing to tackle. When you have funding removed from roads, you definitely need to look to bonding, and bonding is actually a way to make your credit rating be top-notch. And that's actually being ahead of the curve on any kind of incidences that might occur with roads and public safety. And so we have to rely on bonding, but let's do it in the most fiscally responsible way so that we can get the lowest amount of interest charge. That shows good credit. We don't want to be a district or a county that has bad credit, because God forbid we should need credit. Then we're looking at high interest rates. That said, I do think we need to be able to manage the budget that we have and do that in a responsible way by addressing mental health and public safety and supporting our sheriff's department, maintaining our roads, and providing that high quality of life that people so desire.
Okay, well, Mr. Poole, as you've been working with your constituents over the past couple of years and during the campaign period, what's the big issue that you're going to tackle besides those you've already mentioned? What's going to be your focus and why?
Well, unfortunately, the seniors that I talk to, a lot of them say they just can't afford to stay in their homes. Like one of them, he bought his place and built his own house, and now the cost that it cost him to buy the property and build his own house is what he pays per year in taxes, and he can't afford to stay there anymore. That is the problem.
And your solution?
Solution is, like I said, you need to just keep property taxes low. I've even had other business owners tell me, I don't know, what I'm going to do. The taxes just keep going up.
Ms. Wagner, in the next couple of years, if you were elected to this position, what do you want people to say you've accomplished at the end of that period? What would be your torch that you would bear?
Well, first of all, I would want them to recognize that they do have a voice at the table, and they do have somebody who will listen and answer their questions and really get to know the community. They need a voice in however the county board is driven. It's really important that we stay in touch with our constituents. I would like them to recognize me as somebody who does my homework. I am a tough teacher. My students will tell you that. I demand that they perform for me at a certain expectation. I do my homework and hold myself accountable in that same way. I would like them to think or to recognize that any decision that I've made has been thoughtful and reaches across all party lines, because I think we need to look beyond that.
Mr. Poole, similar question for yourself. At the end of your next term, if you're reelected, again, what do you want people to say about you?
Well, I like to say that I did work with the villages to see what their needs were and discuss how the county could work in meeting those needs. And that I worked hard to manage the growth that Foxconn and the businesses will bring to our area. Things like that.
Anything else?
I think that's it.
That would satisfy you. Thank you very much to both candidates for District 20. We appreciate your being here. And now we're going to move to our next candidate, and that is for District 21. We have with us Norman Kazumura and Mark Nordigan. There's no incumbent in this race in District 21.
Just the two of us.
We have a bio here from Mr. Kazumura, which I'll read first, and he'll go first because his last name comes first in the alphabet. Mr. Kazumura was raised in Kenosha County and lives in Salem Lakes, Trevor. Graduated from Central High School and holds a Bachelor of Science in Communication and English from the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater. He also holds a paralegal degree from Carthage College. He's been employed by Aon for 23 years as a senior project manager and and is also employed at the Colony House restaurant in Trevor. He's been their bartender for 23 years. He's a director for the Kenosha County Fair and president of Hawks Run Subdivision. He's also an ordained minister. Mr. Nordigan tells me that he is a quality and compliance manager at North Stand, Inc. in Pleasant Prairie. He's a past park commissioner for the town of Randall in 1993, past elected town board supervisor for the town of Randall, 94 to 2004. He's a certified baseball umpire, a certified softball umpire, and a certified volleyball official. And he has a black belt in Taekwondo. At least, I hope I'm not certifiable, but it's very, very impressive. And we're going to start with an opening statement from Mr. Kazumura, please. Thank you.
Well, good evening, Len. And first, thanks for saying my name correctly. It's a hard name to pronounce, but it's Kazumura, so thank you. Again, thanks for having us here this evening, and it's greatly appreciated. I want to start by saying that I am a longtime, I've been living in Kenosha my entire life. And I really care about the people and what happens here. You know, as I walked and knocked on doors throughout the last few months, I've heard a lot of concerns from people. And one of them is being fiscally responsible. But that begins with first understanding the issues, cost analysis, and economic benefits for proposals that are put forth by the board. In order to do that, I think by having, working at AN for 23 years, and it's a $35 billion company in risk management and analytics. So bringing that and joining it with what I would do on a supervisor board would go hand in hand.
Okay. We'll be back to you. Don't worry. Don't go anywhere. All right, Mr. Nordigan, your opening remarks, please.
I'd like to thank WGTD and as you will and all those who are part of this. Yeah, I'm married to a terrific woman, my love of my life, Corinne. We've been married for almost 29 years now. We have 3 children. My eldest graduated magna cum laude 3.5 years, UW Platteville. I've got a second one at Platteville. He transferred from Dayton to Platteville. And a third that's graduating from Wilmot this year, so, you know, go Panthers. But, yeah. But she will be going to Whitewater, so you'll be happy to know about that. I'll be there tomorrow. I've taken ASL classes with my wife, American Sign Language, just started doing that. I thought it was important. Are you doing it? Cool. It is something that I found interesting in going to a deaf play. But, you know, I did yard working, built grandfather's clocks, you know, did a lot of stuff with my hands as well.
Thank you. All right, let's dig right into it. Mr. Nordigan, you were raised a question about highways in your area that you submitted to me. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, for some odd reason, not only myself, but anyone else who lives in the town of Randall is wondering why is Highway F spending money to straighten out a road that nobody wants straightened out, no one's complaining about, and there aren't any issues with it at all. Sure, I'm sure minor accidents has happened. When Highway W, right in front of American Girl and the ski hills, has massive amounts of really bad accidents, 2, 3, 4 a year with fatalities, and not a word about it.
So I'm assuming that you would be carrying that issue forward.
Yeah, I'd like to stop that County Highway F ridiculous road, whatever amount of money they got for that, and spend it over here, and let's figure out why these people are crashing and dying. It is the worst road in Randall, according to the town board chair, Bob Stoll.
Mr. Kazumura, you can respond to that or tell us what you think is more important.
Well, roads are important, but I think at a higher level is sustainability. So sustainability in Kenosha in the county, as business grows, as we want to continue to keep our taxes where they are, sustainability is key. And for example, maybe it's building a roundabout instead of having some other straight road. But what's really important is just making sure that we continue to have build our businesses. Like we have Salem Park. There's one business in there today. So continuing to bring business into the county so it can help leverage some of the growth that's happening out in the east side of the town.
Well, Mr. Nordigan, what about all the growth that's going on in the county and in your area? What what, is that an important issue for District 21?
It's hugely important.
Why?
In our district, we have Twin Lakes, we have Randall, we have Salem Lakes, and Trevor, however we pronounce it, and Wilmot, as well as the other Highway 83 and Lakes area. I mean, this is really important. People living around the lakes, they're worried about the health of the lakes. They've spent a lot of money to move there. They don't want to see a lot of changes, especially the traffic patterns, which is going to happen. 1,000 new homes was the estimate in Walworth, Racine, and Kenosha counties. You're going to have traffic. You're going to have schools are going to have to be built. 1,000 homes, that's what, 2,000 kids? Where are those kids going to go to school? How are you going to move these people around? So it's going to have to be strategic. And for the most part, the county doesn't have a whole lot of say, unless it's going to be part of a county road or a county budget to expand roads. It's going to be the local communities. And those are the ones we need to work with in order to properly plan out what we're going to do, where we're going to do it, who's going to have the say-so, and, you know, how's it going to affect all these communities. Salem Lakes, and Randall, and Twin Lakes, and Wheatland, you know, we have a lot of great lakes, a lot of places to just be in parks and just enjoy the area.
Mr. Kazumura, what's your response? All this growth is going to happen. This was going to be the fastest growing area of the state after the last census, so this is no surprise. Now there's a lot more development coming up. What's your concern? Well, how would you manage it?
Well, it's not a concern. I think growth is positive. I just think we need the right type of growth. So going back to sustaining the type of businesses that people are bringing into the community. Like Moody's report just came out, and I believe we are at AA2, and of course, and A++. Well, that was S&P. So then we want to get to a AAA rating. So in order to do that, you have to bring the debt level down. In order to bring the debt level down, you need to bring either two things. You need to bring people in that have higher wages, so that debt level goes down, or bring more jobs and increase the tax rates. So that's probably the most important part.
Now, if you win the election, Mr. Nordigan, what would you want people to say about you in a couple of years or so? What difference would you have made for your constituents?
Outside my stunning good looks. I think what I'd like people to say about me is, hey, he listened and took what he heard, checked it out, checked with those who weren't saying the same things. You know, hey, they had opposite views, they had different views, and we came to at least an understanding that I did the best I could with the information we had, the total information that we had, and proceeded forward with a plan that was reasonable and it was well thought out.
Mr. Kazumura, what would you want people to say about you at the end of your term?
I would want them to say that Norm's Norm. Norm hasn't changed. He's the person he is today, and he's going to be the person he is tomorrow. And that person is an honest person, and I too will also listen to the folks in our community to make sure that what they are asking for and what they want is going to happen. But also I would also say that it's not going to be a decision that I make when I listen to the folks in our area. It's not going to be a Democratic response, it's not going to be a Republican response. It's going to be something that I listen to the people and I bring back the best decision that they want.
Thank you very much. Thank you to both gentlemen from District 21. We're going to move on now to our next district, which is District 22. And we have here also no incumbent. We have no incumbent present. The incumbent is Erin Decker. She is a small business owner, Double Decker Automotive Inc. Went to school at Gateway Technical College and earned an associate's degree in graphic technologies. She's a designer. She's a current county board supervisor for almost 8 years. And challenging her, and he is present, is Bruce Lopez. Mr. Lopez has given me some information. He's past village president of Silver Lake and the interim president of Salem Lakes. Served on the Board of Appeals and Planning Commission. He has 30-plus years of work experience in customer service, operations, sales, and management in the financial industry and manufacturing. earned a BA from the University of Wisconsin in 1986 and a graduate certificate in business from Harvard University in 1991. Mr. Nopens, why don't you kick us off with your opening statement, please?
Thank you, Len, and thank you for WGTD for having this event and being able to listen to all the different candidates. When I decided to run for the county board supervisor, the first thing I wanted to do was understand what my opponent was doing. My team sat down with me, explained the things that she was doing, the things she wasn't doing, and at that point I realized I could bring a fresh approach to the position. In the campaign that I've done, there's been a lot of things that have come up with the residents that I've spoken with, and one of them I am so encouraged to hear is the mental health issue and the opioid crisis that not just Kenosha County is facing, but the nation's facing. The Fox River is another thing that's a very prominent part of the landscape in the western part of the county. So either you love the river or you hate the river. And a lot of people right now with what happened last year with the flooding was a big problem. And that's something that I want to tackle on a county level. I believe there's some things that we could do. The public hunting grounds, which I was surprised to hear about. The western part of the county is dotted with public hunting grounds. And right now with the growth that's slated for our part of the county, those areas are going to be encroached on, and the hunters that are out there who are really good land stewards are afraid they're going to lose those grounds. And lastly, development. Development is coming, it's coming quick, and if we don't act now, we're going to face some problems, and parts of my county that enjoy large parks and open spaces are going to be alarmed by the number of rooftops that start popping up.
Well, let's go into that with a little more depth then. You talked about a fresh approach. Fresh is good in vegetables. What about, what kind of a fresh approach are you talking about?
Well, one of the things I'd like to learn more about is what we have done on a county level to protect the open spaces in the western part of the county. Wheatland Township, I think, does a nice job with the way they manage that land, but if there's other things that could be done on a countywide level, I would like to explore that. One of the things that I think is going to happen, because we have a lot of open spaces and Foxconn coming in, there's going to be developers that come in with a lot of money, approach a farmer with 100 acres, offer him a ton of money. I don't fault that farmer for taking that money, but that developer's got the deep pockets. I want impact fees, because what's going to happen when he puts up 100 houses on 100 acres, our roads are going to be impacted, our police are going to be impacted, our fire departments, our schools, and that's not going to be saddled by the property taxpayers right now. I want those developers to come in and understand, if you want that number of houses on that piece of property, you're going to pay impact fees.
What has to change for that to happen, if anything?
Excuse me?
What has to change for that to happen, if anything?
Well, I'm not sure anything needs to change. I would need to understand that. You know, I have to do the homework and understand what we have right now on the books for the county.
Now, you also mentioned the Fox River. It's wonderful for recreation when it's not an angry, raging river, and when it's calm, it's a great place to recreate. What are you going to do about the Fox River?
Well, the Fox River, there's a couple different things with it. The community out there that suffered the flooding last year had a number of people in the community that were stalwarts as far as stepping up and helping people. I would like to see something done on a county level, whether we start putting money aside for as a rainy day fund or whatever you wanted to call it. But when we had the flooding, the federal government wasn't able to help us, the state wasn't able to help us, the people in the community helped each other. And that says a lot about the people in the western part of the county. So if there's something that we could do on a county level, that if we had another disaster like that there were funds available to at least start the process of recovery, I think that would benefit everybody in that part of the county.
Now, you mentioned the public hunting grounds issue. In other words, we have issues with mixed kinds of uses, recreation, hunting, other kinds of recreation on the lakes and rivers and streams. Tell us a little bit more about what your vision is for what has to happen to preserve the quality of life and options for people to recreate.
Well, when somebody decides they want to sell off a 100-acre farm or whatever the acreage is on that farm, let's understand the things around it. You know, the townships really have that responsibility. But as a county, and representing that part of the district, if there's anything that could be done to help them protect those areas, that's part of the open spaces that everybody has moved out there to enjoy.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your being here.
Thank you.
Mr. Nopens from the 22nd County Supervisor District. And now we're going to move to District 23, and we have the two candidates here, our incumbent, Dennis Elverman, and our challenger, Mark Starzyk. Mr. Elverman is a landscape designer and contractor, Elverman Landscapes, Inc., educated at Holy Name in Wilmot, at Wilmot High School, University of Wisconsin-Madison, 71 to 73, has been a Twin Lakes Village trustee for 8 years, and has been on the Kenosha County Board for 23 years. Mr. Starzyk has furnished me with a biographical card. He's a full-time resident and homeowner for 46 years, has an Associate Arts in Accounting and a Bachelor of Business Administration from UW-Whitewater, owns various businesses, he says, with an A+ Better Business Bureau rating, current chair of the Kenosha County Housing Authority Board, former County Board Supervisor in the 27th District, serving on the Personnel, Building and Grounds, and Jail Study Committees. Randall Town Chair for 4 years, Randall Town Supervisor for 20 years, formerly a member of the Community Library Board, and he's been a Smart Growth Commission member of the Joint Twin Lakes Randall Group, and a 4th degree Knights of Columbus. Welcome, gentlemen. Thank you for being with us tonight. We're going to begin with our opening statement from our incumbent, Mr. Elverman.
Thank you, and as everyone has said, thank you for having us here. I'm not going to do any one-liners. I've heard a few tonight. I'm sure I'll hear some more. So this isn't student council we're running for. It's serious business. I've been in a leadership position for many years on the county board, and instead I'd like to get into what we've done and our accomplishments. The county executive and a dedicated group of supervisors, given Kenosha County our best bond rating ever, a AA+, unemployment at 3%, reserves at 18+ million, more ribbon cuttings than I have time to attend, a fully renovated courthouse, administration building, nursing home, public safety building, countywide broadband, the first in the state, Wi-Fi, constant infrastructure maintenance, public-private innovative partnerships to enhance all of our quality of life. All this and still holding tax increase for the last 10 years at 0.53%.
Thank you. Mr. Starzyk, your opening remarks, please.
Well, thank you much. Hi, folks. I'm your neighbor, Mark Starzyk. After going door to door to over 1,000 homes, I feel like many of you that Twin Lakes and Randall are the jewels of the county. I would also like to keep things that way. I'm not going to make any promises I can't keep. I'm going to concentrate on long-term quality of life issues and defend a lifestyle that we all love. One promise I will make, and that's to fight for we the taxpayers. I'd also like to give a special shout out to my parents and grandparents for teaching me the values of life. They stressed hard work, education, and the value of money. They set my compass in the right direction. The older I got, the smarter they looked to me. Thank you much for having me.
All right, thank you. Let's dive right into some of these issues. Mr. Starzyk, you said you wanted to focus on the long-term quality of life issues in District 23 if you were elected. What do you mean by that specifically, sir?
Well, I don't know if you've ever been out to our area, but we have 4 pristine lakes, beautiful agricultural land, and people love it just the way it is. They would prefer to keep things just the way they are and have their children and grandchildren have the same issues that they've had. None. They like things just the way they are.
Mr. Elverman, is that even possible in the 21st century?
Well, we are encompassed by much more activity than that. Quality of life to the taxpayers where we live tends to want a little bit more. We've addressed some of that. We've moved, the first new park in decades, the KD Park, which is more of a nature preserve, 300 acres right in the town of Wheatland and Randall to enhance that quality of life. But also, taxes are very high when you have the beautiful resources and area that we have. We rely very much just on residential. So what I work on as a county board supervisor is getting the county in the best fiscal position it can be in to help my constituents, to take that burden off the constituents. Our area is not going to change a whole lot. It's very rural, and it is pretty well designated by the lakes.
Mr. Starzyk, what are your constituents, if you were elected, telling you that they want you to work on as an important issue, besides the general ones we've just talked about? Are there specific issues that you will take up on behalf of your constituents, and what would they be?
Well, I would think that the county should have better money management, okay? And I've been following this quite frequently in the paper. The county's purchasing squad cars and computers with a 3-year service life with 10-year bonds. Okay, so 7 years after you've traded in the vehicle, you're still paying for it. Many of these computers are obsolete by the time they get them out of the box. So I can't see, from a money management standpoint, you would be doing this. And that's what I would concentrate on, is my #1 goal. Also, I think the county should take the lead role in the Foxconn management. Kind of coordinate everybody's efforts, all the communities in Kenosha County, to see that the county's the lead person doing this, okay? So that one municipality isn't jumping out and trying to outdo somebody else. We work as a team.
Mr. Overman, how do you see these issues?
Well, can I do them both? The bonding, everyone has dodged that this evening, and a lot of people maybe just don't understand it.
Well, there's been a lot of comment about it in the
Right.
biographies in the Kenosha News.
So this 3-year thing for computers and squad cars, I'll try to simplify it. I've done it quite a bit here this year. If you watch the show American Pickers, how's that? Frank and Mike get better prices when they bundle things. So there's fees involved when you go to bond, when you go and do an issue. If you take the 20 squad cars that we may need money for, we don't do all our squad cars in 1 year. You take a $300,000 issue, you're not going to get, 1, anybody to bid on it, and 2, horribly high interest rates. So what we do is take larger items that we are going to bond for, bridges, highways, large construction equipment, things that last 15 to 50 years, and we bundle them with these squad cars. These squad cars then get the beautiful interest rates that we get now because of our bonding, and they are paid off in the early part of that bonding's 10-year bond. It's not that we're still paying for these squad cars in 10 years. What was the second thing?
Any issue you want to talk about that's important to your constituents?
Well, the fiscal management is very important to all of us, and I think the county has been horribly proactive. We have a very inclusive county executive if you are a worker and come up with ideas. And
so you believe that the fiscal management of the county is actually first rate at this point?
Oh, God, it's first rate. I don't see, I mean, I haven't seen, I've been chairman of the county board, vice chair of the county board, and I've been chair of a major committee for most of the time I've been there. And it hasn't been this sound. Every county wishes they were Kenosha County.
Mr. Starzyk, if you were elected, what would you want people to say about Mark Starzyk in a couple of years?
Well, that I listened to them. When I went door to door, people expressed what items they really wanted to concentrate on, and I would concentrate on those items.
Mr. Overman, what do you want people to say about you if you're reelected at the end of your term?
I want them to thank me for keeping my nose down, taking this drive thousands of times into Kenosha, and again, being their advocate. I've always been horribly proud that my neighbors selected me to do this and trusted me, because you're their voice.
Thank you both very much, and thank you all for listening and watching to our forum this evening. On behalf of WGTD and Kenosha Community Media, thank you all very much, and good evening.
Thank you.